Thank you for joining us on another episode of Pillars of Heaven. I'm in the studio with JB today. Welcome, JB.
Hey, Dr. Mike. Thank you very much.
Hey, man. How are things?
Doing well.
All right, good.
How about you?
I'm doing great. I know you have some new projects you want to talk to us about, so
Yes.
Let's hear them, buddy.
Yeah, I want to make a quick announcement, as quick as possible. I've got some exciting news to share with all of you. We've raised $124 so far with our Bibles for Everyone fundraiser, and I will soon be able to purchase our first case of Bibles. My goal is to take your generous gifts and to make them go as far as we possibly can with sharing the Word of God. I was originally going to purchase the CEV Bible, which a lot of you listening probably already know is one of my favorite versions of the Bible. However, I was going to get slammed with a pretty hefty shipping fee from the only website I could purchase them from. Amazon no longer carries them at this time. But wait, there is good news and light at the end of the tunnel. And speaking of good news, I discovered and have been reviewing the Good News Translation Bible, and I'm liking it very much. It is a very reader-friendly translation of the Bible, and I am able to purchase many more Bibles with free shipping. So as soon as all of the funds become available for us to receive from Give, Send, Go, I will be purchasing our first set of Bibles. These Bibles will be available for anyone in need of a readable and easy-to-understand version of the Bible. Our goal from the start has been to share our passion of God's Word with everyone willing to listen. If you need a Bible, please reach out to us, and if you'd like to donate to this wonderful cause, go to www.givesendgo.com/BiblesForEveryone. Also, please join our community on Facebook. Search for In My Father's House or go to facebook.com/groups/In My Father's House. It is super easy to find me on there. I know I go by JB on here, but my name is Jonathan Rindos, and I'm always posting in the group. There you will find links to Bibles for Everyone and find out everything else that is going on. All right, Dr. Mike, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I think that's great. And I just saw a version of that translation, and I really like that at the beginning of every chapter that there's an introduction. It tells you a little bit of what you're about to read.
Yes.
So that part's really, really cool.
And that's what I liked. One of the things I liked about the CEV, which the Good News Translation, which I brought to the studio today so Mike could see it, it also has an intro to the books, and I love that. It's like this translation of the Bible is geared towards the beginner, and it's good for everybody. Even if you've been reading the Bible for years, it's just a super reader-friendly, easy-to-understand translation that you can curl up to and relax and just really enjoy the Word of God without struggling to understand, or what I like to call wrestling with the words on the page.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a nice, light Bible. I like it.
Yeah.
Now, I looked up my favorite verse. I like it in there. So, yeah, if you need a Bible, please reach out to us. Reach out to JB.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm very easy to find. You can find both Dr. Mike and I in the group In My Father's House. Mike Altieri, and my name is Jonathan Rindos. You'll see me. I post frequently. But a little more about this Bible before we continue with the show. So I like to, these Bibles will cost between $4 and $5 when I purchase the case. And I don't go for the cheapest Bible out there for a couple of reasons. Some of the cheapest Bibles out there, the print is so small. I mean, you need a magnifying glass to read the Bible.
Yeah, that's not good.
And it's not worth it to me to give you a Bible that you're not going to read.
Right.
I want you to be able to open up the Bible and read it and enjoy it, because that is what we are called to do. Study the Word of God.
Right. Yeah, that's a great program, and make sure you type that out in the description.
We'll definitely. Yeah, the links will be in the description. Join our community, please. Definitely want to see you there. I post scriptures when I read through the Bible, scriptures that stick out to me, that inspire me. I share with the group. Share what's going on with your life. If you have any thoughts or questions or anything.
Yeah, and it's cool because it seems like we're welcoming new people there almost every day.
Yeah.
So
it's a growing community.
Yeah, so today's topic, I'm going to read you a verse. It's Psalms 9:9. It says, "The Lord is a stronghold for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble." And that really is the basis for our topic today. And our topic today hits near and dear to JB. So I'm going to turn it over to him and let him discuss what he wants to and what he doesn't want to about it, because we're here, to support him. So JB, it's all yours.
All right. Well, this is a very difficult topic to discuss, and I originally wasn't going to, but Dr. Mike and I were talking before the show, and we were talking about the things that were going on in my life, and we both agreed that we thought it would be good for everybody to hear this, because there could be someone out there listening that needs to hear this. So for years, I struggled with anxiety, which many listeners on this show already know about that, because I talk about anxiety frequently. But it goes deeper than that. For the last several years to almost a decade, I thought I had some form of autism, and that I never was diagnosed with it as a child, because I did share a lot of symptoms that relate to autism. But then within the last year or so, I thought that I was possibly sexually abused as a child. And the reason is because of the behaviors that I did when I was a kid kind of point to
some event
that took place, right, as like the evidence. And then just recently, within the last week, I don't want to say that it was a revelation, but I guess it could be, because it was on my mind and I was thinking about it, and I did research. I Googled how to tell or evidence that you were sexually abused as a child. And so I looked it up, and I hit almost every
requirement there.
Yeah, every bullet point on the checklist, I almost hit every one.
Yeah.
And so it was very difficult for me to process this, and I didn't know how to deal with it at first. At first, I didn't tell anybody, and then I did reach out to a couple of friends, and I didn't get into depth with it, but I did reach out to my mom. I talked to my mom about it, and she was really upset. And she even said to me, I thought that you thought you had autism.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I thought so too. But I said, this is the tricky thing, is that a lot of these different things share the same symptoms. But when you go through, this is where you weed out like other possibilities. When you go through the checklist on what is involved, what are the symptoms of sexual abuse, I hit almost every one. So this was very eye-opening to me. And I realized that upon reflecting on my soul and on my life, that my life was shaped by this one event that I can't remember.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you say that part, because a lot of people unfortunately do remember. And we're talking about a time in your life where you're pre 5 years old, probably, right? Okay, so now, like we talked before the show, I had something happen to me at the age of 2, which very traumatic, and I remember it to this day, like it was yesterday. But that definitely shaped my life and turned, because of that thing that happened, I struggle with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right. So I can see that if what you're saying is in fact true, that definitely will shape your path, and put a fork in the road and gear you towards a different path in life. And it does go back, and we talked about, talking to therapists, and, a good therapist is going to get to that root problem and go back so that you can, you dig that problem up so that you can deal with that problem. Yeah. You know what I mean? But as we talked before, you don't really want to deal with a person or a situation. You want to deal with recovery.
Yeah, I and that's why I'm kind of hesitant on going to a counselor. And I definitely, if I do, I'd want to go to Christian counseling, because my objective is I want to cope with the aftermath. I want to overcome this what I call a disability because it's been a disability in my life, but it's been a mystery that I always blamed on social anxiety and then possibly autism. But I have no goals, or I have no desire to try to find the perpetrator, to try to find who did it. I don't have any bitterness or malice in my heart. All I can say is I hope that whoever did it, I hope that they seek repentance from the Lord, and that they seek forgiveness. And I hope they find the Lord. They find Jesus.
Right. So you basically want to get to the point, and like you say, you don't want to point the finger or blame anybody or get, there's no anger and there's no retaliation, and you just want to be able to understand what happened so that you can now cope and move on.
Yeah, because you can't undo what happened.
Right.
And it's not wise to cling to bitterness. And because if you go that route, you're going to wind up hating a lot of people in your life, because you're not going to know who did it, and then you're going to start wondering in the back of your mind, well, maybe it was this person, maybe it was that person, and that's no way to lead a life.
It's not a way to lead a life, and it also, as you're going on through life, and now that you've had this revelation, it's kind of like now there's a reason for the way you act.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you act weird. I'm just saying that.
Oh, I do.
Now you can tell yourself that, hey, I struggle in this area.
Yeah.
This makes sense now.
I've been awkward my whole life, and I blamed it for the longest time on social anxiety, and then I thought it was autism. But I've been awkward my whole life, and everything I do, there was awkwardness. Kind of like jamming a puzzle piece in a spot that it didn't fit. I think that I forgot. I lost my train of thought.
All right. The thing that, when I look at other people and, something that traumatic that happens, that alters your ability to enjoy regular relationships in the future, right? So I would always look, just myself, I would look at people that are having a quote unquote healthy relationship where, each one's getting their what they need fulfilled by the other person, or that just gentle, natural ability to just do things. Yeah,
that's a really great point that you bring that up, because the worst part about all of this, the actual abuse is horrific now, and I'm actually grateful that I don't remember the event. But I think what's even worse from all this is the long-lasting effects, that long-lasting impact that it has. This has affected every aspect of my life. We talked about it earlier before the show that, I would watch movies and, we say like the guy gets the girl, and I'd always think to myself, why can't I, be that quote unquote guy, that always said the right things, that things always came natural. When it came to physical intimacy, like just as simple as like holding or stroking someone's hand or caressing their hair, all that stuff felt forced to me. All that stuff felt awkward. Mm-hmm. And one of the symptoms of someone who experienced sexual abuse in their childhood, whether they recall the event or not, is fear of intimacy and difficulty with intimacy and avoiding it sometimes altogether.
Was it just felt unnatural, or was it like, okay, I'm holding their hand and I feel forced, like I have to hold their hand?
No, see, this is where it gets really complicated and difficult, because it's like you want to do it and you feel like you should do it, but you don't. I can't. It's so hard to explain, but anybody listening that has been through this in their past probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. it's like you had this idea in your mind of what a relationship is supposed to be like and what it's supposed to look like. And I guess that's because we're shaped by society to an extent. Like you see, like, okay, if you're dating, maybe you hold hands, or, maybe before you kiss your girlfriend or your boyfriend, maybe you caress their cheek. So you have this idea of how you want to interact with your partner. And so you go to try to do that, but it always feels awkward. You always kind of feel like that awkward teenager, that you don't know what to do. And then you just like nothing is natural about the whole
and there
situation.
It should be natural. That should be a natural.
It should just come natural.
Yeah, that should be a natural instinct.
And that's where I call it like a disability. That's like one of the forms of anxiety that you'll hit in your life. And the horrible part is that anxiety follows you with everything you do. Everything from getting up every morning to go to work, what you're going to do in the morning before you go to work, to your day at work and interacting with others. One of the things that we talked about earlier before the show was, upon further reflecting on my life, I realized that my whole life was shaped by this one event. I always had an obsession with strength ever since I was in my early teens. Now, some people might think that that's natural for a boy, but I took it to the extreme. So in my early teens, I started working out, and I got stronger than a lot of the other boys, and I used to win a lot in arm wrestling, and I arm wrestled my brother and my dad. And then as I got older in my later teens, when I really started, learning about working out and lifting, and I started to get really strong, I wanted to keep getting as strong as I possibly could. And I had this undying inferiority complex. Like I had this fear, like I wanted to be as strong as I possibly could, and I did not want anyone to be stronger than me. As if I felt like that I was somehow in control, and that no one could take advantage of me in any way. Yeah. But I never understood that. I always just thought it was like a form of self-defense. But it was like this fear, this unexplainable fear.
See, mine was different. I got picked on a lot as a kid. And so I was fat, and I was overweight, and I was shy. And, people would do things to me and I wouldn't retaliate, and I would just take it. And that prompted me to hit the gym, and that prompted me to build my confidence. And, that event, that constant trauma for me was, that fueled me to go into the gym and get bigger. And as I got bigger and stronger, people still tried to do, however, it had now changed because my physical appearance had changed, and the people that would say those things before started to shy back themselves and be like, well, I better not say this to him because he could probably put a serious hurting on me. And it took me a couple serious hurtings of others to establish, actually just one, where it was, this guy.
You always have that one person that's like that doesn't care, it's like they don't think at all.
Yeah. And it's, and that.
It's always, you ever notice it's always a little guy too?
It's with a big mouth. and it was, that one event, I believe, kept me from a lot more events because of, how people talk and whatever. But that's what fueled me. It was constant, getting picked on. And it's like, okay, if I go to the gym, that's my passion just poured into it, because now I'm going to be, just like you're saying, I'm going to overcome this by strength.
I was picked on too, though, and I for the longest time I blamed it on that. Like, oh well, I got into this because I was picked on, which I probably was picked on because I was an awkward kid, and I was awkward because of the events that took place. Because again, it affects your whole life. It affects your behavior and how you carry yourself. So I thought that, and I'm sure that obviously that contributed to why I wanted to work out. because I wanted to combat the bullying and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is that the reason why this is a much deeper rooted issue is that I never escaped that mentality. Even long after I left school, I still had that mentality, that inferiority complex, that desire to want to get as strong as possible. And it was like it was like I said earlier, it was undying.
Yeah.
I mean, I constantly obsessed about it. It was an obsession. And it wasn't, it kind of morphed into all these different things. Like I wanted to eventually compete in World's Strongest Man. I wanted to compete in powerlifting. But it was really, the root of it was
power.
Was
control.
The strength, was the control.
Is that you can't,
that inferiority complex.
Nobody's going to have that strength over you any longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, if it was just about bullying, then that would have kind of like fizzled out after I left school.
Right.
But it didn't. It didn't. So that again tells me that this is a much deeper thing that started way before all that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. But I mean, it fueled, I can see, you wanting, if that traumatic event happens, now you want to be in control so that subconsciously, like, I'm never going to allow this to happen again.
Yeah.
I need to get stronger and it's just like the children that get abused that get beaten over and over is, when they finally have the stones to stand up, say, hey, you're not going to beat me up anymore.
Yeah.
It's along those lines, but that one event will definitely shape, how you treat others and how you perceive yourself and how you feel about other people. You know what I mean? And that, because I was, relationship wise, I was the awkward guy too.
Yeah.
It was always like, why can't I have that? Well, look at how easy it is for them.
Yeah.
It's so simple. And look at this person, and why do they get this other person that's so perfect to me, you know? And, and it was a struggle, and the things that were supposed to be easy were a struggle for me as well.
Yeah.
And, so I understand that part of you seeing somebody or holding their hand, or there were times when, see, my issue was I fell in love very quickly.
Yeah.
All the time. So no matter what the red flags were, I fell in love with.
That's a young person thing.
Well, I'm only 28. So I fell in love with the idea of being in love.
Yeah, I get that.
Rather than the person.
Yeah, I get that.
So I would always try and
believe it or not, sometimes it can get worse as you get older.
It does.
Depending on the person.
Yeah, it does.
Because you in your mind, and I'm not saying this happens to you or happens to everybody, but what I'm saying is it has the potential to get worse as you get older, because you feel like, even if you don't think about it consciously, you might think about it subconsciously, that time is running out. And that you're like, okay, this is the last piece of my puzzle. I need to make this fit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Even if it clearly doesn't fit. So
you try to like shave the pieces of the puzzle to get it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work.
I know. And it's not like I'm not guilty of that myself, but the best advice I could give for that is just go back to, like, the book of Genesis, with Abraham and Sarah. Don't try to fit the puzzle in there. Don't try to fit the puzzle piece in there. Just, wait on God, seek God, and God can do anything. That's what he said. I can do anything. He said that he said that Sarah was going to have a baby at 99 years old.
It's so funny you're bringing that up, because my little guy's homework was about that.
Yeah.
And we just went over that, and we read that entire, I read that entire thing to him. And, it stuck out at me was like, okay, I was a certain age when I had my little boy. And here's Abram at that point saying, what, is she going to have a child at 90? I'm 100. And, that just seemed foolish at the time.
Yeah. But the takeaway from that is, don't try to force anything,
right.
Because you could bring a lot of hardship to your life that you could avoid. Leave it to God, and just follow his path.
So I can imagine identifying, and identifying that there was an issue, or there could possibly very well be an issue of some event that happened. That alone, difficult.
Very difficult. To the point where I didn't even want to talk about it at first.
Well, that part being difficult, now you bring it to your mother.
That was probably the hardest.
I can't imagine in my head how I would do that, or how awkward that would be.
Let's put it this way. I and I didn't actually talk to her face to face. I did it through a chat, and I actually typed out the message, and I was actually considering deleting the message before I sent it, backspacing it. But I sent it. It was very difficult. It was very hard for me to send that message.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. And I'm sure your mom devastated, I'm sure, just to receive, it's your child. You don't want to hear anything that's happened to your child. Yeah,
it's very awkward to talk about because, first of all, it's almost like it's almost like the perpetrator. And again, I have no bitterness in my heart, but it's almost like the perpetrator still has that grip on you when you are afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because you almost feel like you're the culprit, like you're the bad person.
Like it's your fault.
Well, yeah. Well, not just that, but like if you look at the symptoms, I mean, it's like you don't want to be looked at as the bad person.
Right.
You know, that again, it's hard to explain.
Yeah. So I imagine that's a difficult conversation. And then I'm assuming that from that conversation blossoms other conversations that spread out across, different family, different friends. And yeah, you're going to cling to people that have gone through this, or other individuals or family or whoever that have experienced this, because they're going to help you get through this.
Yeah.
Right. Because of what they've gone through in their life. Right. It's easy for me to say, I understand what you're talking about. I sympathize, and here's what you should do. But that means nothing from me. I haven't gone through that. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get more out of somebody who's actually gone through that forest and is on the other side and is saying, here's the path to get through the forest.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, any chance that it's not this situation, or you think it's 100%?
It's 100%. After years of wondering, I finally, and it was, I do believe it was through the power of Christ that I put the puzzle pieces together. And the reason why I say it was through the power of Christ is because the puzzle pieces were always right there in front of my face, but I never connected the dots until me wondering about this started probably about a year ago. And then it finally just dawned on me over the past week upon doing a little more research, because I was always pointing to other things. I was pointing to autism. But I remember clearly the different things that took place in my childhood, things that my own behavior that pointed to the fact that something took place in my childhood that I don't recall or remember.
Right. So, so that would make sense on actions and things that you did as, preteen, teenager, getting not over, but that leads, there's a root cause as to why certain. So did you ever wonder growing up, why am I like this, or why am I acting like this?
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. So again, this is like another warning sign. If you find out that your child is doing any kind of sexual behaviors with other children, especially prepubescent, then that's definitely a huge red flag that something's going on.
Yeah.
They're learning this behavior from somewhere. Now, I mean, it's hard. It's probably harder nowadays because of what's in the media. But see, back when we were growing up, that stuff wasn't readily available.
Right.
So you most likely learned it from somebody, not from TV or movies.
Right.
So yeah, those are red flags, that was learned by someone or something. And the weird thing is that so when the attacker or the perpetrator, when they do this to a child, they're kind of like normalizing it.
Right.
And that's the weird thing. That's why when the child does these things in their life, they don't see that as odd.
To them, it's normal.
Yeah.
Right.
They're just carrying it out.
Right.
It's really weird.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine that's going through this right now. They were abused as a younger child by an older child.
Yeah.
And the older child, of course, now has passed on, but the anger and the devastation that took place on this child's life, even in death of the older child, of the perpetrator, still no peace. You know what I mean? Wow. They're very damaging and very, so, you saying I have no malice in my heart for that.
Yeah.
What I can say from watching that experience and going through that with them is that, yeah, she's still no comfort, no satisfaction that he's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you won't find it.
Yeah.
And that's why the whole bitterness thing and revenge, it never is satisfying because it won't take away what happened.
But you think you want that.
Yeah.
Because you've been hurt.
Like that instant gratification.
Right. You want them to feel what they've done to you.
Right.
Like you want them to suffer.
Yeah.
And for some people, maybe that does quench that thirst. I don't know. But for this person, unfortunately, it was, that damage was so brutal, and it changed. Now every part of her life
most
is
definitely
now affected by it. And moving
absolutely
forward, even just like you said, with having a relationship which you quote unquote normal, or having anything to do with feeling normal in a relationship or with a partner or with anybody is altered for her. And I don't know if there's a cure for that. I don't know how you deal with that.
I don't know, but one thing is interesting. Like as you're telling me this story, it brings me, and I love this song. I listen to Word FM all the time, every time I go in the car. And this one song I just recently heard, and I shared it to the group in my father's house. It's called God So Loved the World, and it's by We the Kingdom.
Yeah. And
in the song, they say, bring all your addictions and all your troubles and put them at the foot of the cross.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's my advice to that young woman.
Yeah.
Is nobody on this earth can heal you.
Right.
There's no books you can read. There's no self-help. There's no drug. There's no alcohol. Nothing is going to cure you of this problem. The only one that's going to cure you is Jesus Christ.
Right.
And he'll help you. You can find peace. You can find comfort, but it's only going to come through Jesus Christ. It's going to be a challenge. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but just know that you do have a friend in Christ.
Yeah, and that's the important thing is, we all have our different struggles, and some are way deeper than others.
Yeah.
But we all have the same cure, and we all have that same path to, to actually getting better and to actual healing.
I pray for peace on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Anxiety is something that never leaves me, but it's managed, and it's not managed by drugs. It's managed by Jesus Christ.
Right.
I pray every day because it's something that I constantly struggle with, and knowing the cause is helpful because at least I know what's going on. But Jesus Christ is faithful. He's helping me through this, and he's leading me and guiding me. And the thing is that another revelation I had, which is why I really think that I think this whole thing is a blessing for me to know about, is because it's showing me why Jesus has been so patient with me over the years, with my different behaviors, promiscuity in my younger years, which again is another sign of abuse, promiscuity, basically shying away from any real relationships or intimacy, and drug abuse, alcohol abuse. And then I thought to myself, wow, this is why God has been so patient with me all these years, because he knew all along. Obviously, he knows everything. He knew all along what I went through. I didn't. but I was suffering the aftermath from it.
Yeah.
And so now he's revealing this stuff to me, that this is what the cause was from this anxiety. And it's really just crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's really wild. But I'm grateful to God. I'm grateful to Jesus Christ that he's been patient with me all this time. And it just further shows, you know, that, you know, where does it say in the Bible that God shows mercy to those he chooses to? And so just know that, you know, Jesus is a fair judge and a fair God, and he treats all of us on an individual basis. He knows what you're going through. He knows more about you than you do. And he is patient, and he's waiting to help you.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're on the right path to recovery and healing, you know, and my only word of caution is it might get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Just like with everything that people struggle with. Sometimes you'll have your peak and valley. But as you find out more and realize more and more things come to the surface, it's important that you stay with that spirit of, you know, I don't want justification. I don't want revenge.
Right.
You know, I just want to be able to. Now things make sense.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a reason for why I act this way. And now that I know that I can get better, I can heal from this and take the steps to change a little bit and work at it.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, from the moment that I found out, I had no interest in trying to find the perpetrator. I just wanted to know how to overcome and get past it. Now that I know why I have these difficulties, why I have these disabilities, so to speak, the only thing I could say for the perpetrator is I hope they find Christ. I hope that they repent of what they've done. I hope they know that they've done wrong and that they seek forgiveness. Whether they seek forgiveness from me, I hope they seek forgiveness from Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I have no malice in my heart. I have no bitterness in my heart. Listen, everybody, we live in a broken world, and I was talking with Dr. Mike before the show. We were talking about the movie The Shack.
Yeah.
And great movie if you've never seen it. It's on Netflix, and I'm sure it's on other streaming services. In the movie, the man has as a child, he has an abusive dad, and he had a lot of bitterness towards his dad, but long story short, I wanted you to see the movie. He learns that you don't fully understand the whole story because he finds out later that his dad was abusive to his dad, and so on. The abuse was a chain reaction.
It was a pattern.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not by any means condoning or
that doesn't justify it.
I'm not justifying it, but what I'm saying is that we live in a broken world, and it's not for us to judge. That's God's job.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus knows everything. He knows that what everyone's been through, and my goal is not to go after anybody. That is not my goal whatsoever. I want them to repent. I hope they find Jesus Christ, and I hope they seek salvation.
Yeah, and that's the important part is here for you, and you have to realize, you know, that's their journey, for their forgiveness journey. For you, it's you know, how do you deal with what's happened now, and how do you get better from it? And we even talked before, it's how do you take this and turn it into something greater. Right. And we talked about, hey, maybe this is an opportunity for you to help others.
And I would love to do that.
Yeah. And, you know, there's no one or two specific. I mean, every case is different, you know, and every situation is completely different.
Absolutely.
But like I've said in my show before, I listen to people that don't just relate to me, but that have gone through and survived. and are on the other side and are saying, there's a way to get through this. Here's how I did it. Not that I can sympathize with you. Not that I can just listen to you and feel bad and give you advice.
Yeah.
I'm drawn to the people that are like, yep, know what you're talking about. You know why? Been there.
Yeah.
That's why. And here's what happened to me, and here's what I felt. Oh, man, you felt that too? Yeah, I felt that. I did this. And here's how I got through it. Will that work for you? I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is how I did it, and look at me now. Right. And that's the point I want you to get to is now I understand there's some awkward. So take that to your relationships, right?
Sure.
You take that to the relationships you're in now or in the future or whatever, and use, okay, I realize this hasn't been natural for me.
Sure.
And now I know why. Right. So
it makes you completely dysfunctional.
Right.
In every way. It makes you, it makes your,
it's crippling.
Yeah, your sexuality is dysfunctional. Your relationship, your intimacy on all levels. I mean, you know, even just like being romantic or talking in just conversational format, everything is dysfunctional.
Right. So now you know that there's a reason behind that, and now it's okay. I understand I'm not good at this, right? Or it's a struggle for me to do this, or I have to force myself to do that. But for those things that don't come natural to us, they're the things you work on, right? And the more you do, it becomes routine, then it becomes natural, right? So I know in my dating life, like I'm single for a long time now, right? So I know when I was looking for certain things, the things that were awkward for me, I had to make an issue of to work on and say, you know, and be very honest. Hey, this is an issue that I struggle with. Yeah. And you're going to have some patience with me, and I'm working on it. And here's, you know, either you can help me along this journey or see ya. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's now that you know, and I've been there. I've been with this struggle. Hey, I'm holding their hand. This should feel natural and normal. And I feel like I'm forcing this, and this just doesn't feel right. Yeah. You know? And or I want to say this here, but I'm not going to, or I want to do this, but I'm not going to, or I've done this and I shouldn't have, or you know, I understand that part. But those things I would have to bring out and work on. Right. And that's the thing, is knowing that you struggle with it is the first part of that battle. Sure. Right. Yeah. And knowing that, hey, this is an issue. So now I have to work. So, you know, my challenge to you is go out and be uncomfortable. Right. So if it's a struggle for you to caress their hair, or do it. Right. And do it until that uncomfortable feeling becomes less uncomfortable feeling. Yeah. Right. And you'll be surprised in what I can say from me is the things that I really needed to work on now become more natural to me. And now it's not even no brainer on some of them, where it's just like, you know, I will do that and not even think twice about it. Whereas before, it was very uncomfortable, and I'm like, you know. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think it's that simple, Dr. Mike. For me, it's different on certain areas. Right, but with somebody who has this anxiety that stemmed from abuse of some sort, it's like you would think that the longer you spend time with somebody and the longer you're with them, that things would get easier, but they just don't. Yeah, it's almost like it never leaves square one. I hear you. And it's really hard to explain, because it's not like, oh, I'm getting better at talking with girls, or I'm getting better at talking with people, where it's just the act of doing the talking or communicating with people. We're talking about being with the same person for all this time, and you still can't do it. Yeah. You know, it's like a roadblock. So to speak. You think it's that person, or you think it's? No, I don't think it's the actual person. I think it's that. Just that limitation. It's like a limitation. Yeah. It's like where, the best way to describe it, to put it into words, it's as if the person's wearing a straitjacket. They in their minds know what they want to do and what they should do, but there's something that's keeping them from doing it. from just acting?
Because it doesn't feel natural.
Right.
It feels the opposite of natural. It feels forced if they do it.
Gotcha.
And because they feel forced, it's carried out in an awkward way. And that's why you're a lot of times look awkward to others, because you're just awkward the whole time, like a fish out of water.
Right.
You're trying to do stuff that you know you should do. Have you ever seen someone walk around that has anxiety?
Yes.
I mean, I know because I have anxiety. Yeah. I know I feel awkward and I probably look awkward, depending on the situation. If it's a situation where, it triggers my anxiety, everything about it is just awkward.
Yeah.
And it's like, the funny thing is that I've gotten good, a little off topic, but I've gotten good at hiding my anxiety sometimes. In fact, going back probably a decade or so now, I had a friend that didn't believe me, and he even chuckled when I told him I had social anxiety. He didn't
hiding it so good.
Well, yeah, because I was like the life of the party a lot of times. I'd get up and I'd sing karaoke in front of the big crowds, and he's like, "What do you mean? How do you have this anxiety? You get up and sing and everything else." And I said, "I hide it.
Yeah.
I fake it.
Inside, you're panicking.
Inside, I'm totally uncomfortable, and I feel like everybody's looking at me and staring at me and maybe talking behind my back, and but yeah, like I forced myself through it, but it was like this years of pretending.
Yeah, no, I get that. I used to get, where I would always worry about what other people thought of me. Or like, same thing, if you're out somewhere, you're like, I wonder what they're saying about me, or I wonder what they're thinking. And people would always tell me, who cares what they think?
Yeah, but that's a social anxiety.
Right. And people always, their advice was, who cares stop caring about what they think. Okay, that's easy to
hear. And
I
wish I could do that.
I wish I could do that too.
Because I was good at it at one point. I don't know if I am still. But I could put on an act and make it look like I was as cool as a cucumber, not a care in the world. But on the inside, I'm like, nope. I hope people
get me out of here.
I hope people believe this act.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And the people that always said things that were so simple. Oh, why do you struggle? It's silly to other people because they don't deal with it.
Sure.
And that's the part where, it's okay for other people to say that. And if you hear that, oh, it's not a big deal, you're making a big deal out of it. Wow, it's a big deal to me, because it's not a big deal to you because you don't suffer with it, but you don't struggle with it.
Even something as simple as, just talk out your problems. Just communicate. Communication is important. And communication is very important. But one of the things with anxiety in general, anxiety from a history of abuse, if the abuse caused the anxiety, or anxiety from other things, makes it very difficult to communicate. Yeah. And sometimes this is why, things happen where people don't communicate properly, or maybe by the time they do communicate, it's coming across harsh, in a harsh tone. Because obviously it was at a boiling point that got to that because they weren't communicating in the first place.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. More to me than probably some other people.
Yeah.
Because I have some of the same things, that I deal with. But that was always funny to me. It was always, hey, just why are you, oh, you're crazy. Why do you think, why it's not a big deal? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And it's not a big deal to them, but things in their life that are a big deal to me seem silly.
Well, that's what makes things like disabilities, unseen disabilities, are the hardest ones for people to understand.
Yeah.
If somebody has paralyzed legs or a missing limb, you can understand, all right, yeah, they have a hard time getting around. But when somebody has like a mental illness, whether it be depression, anxiety, anything, there's a lot of unseen things that you can't fully understand because it's a disability you can't actually see.
Right.
So it makes it harder to understand. Why can't you do this? Oh, come on, stop being a stick in the mud. Just come out and have a good time.
That was one of the most. That got me more angry than ever. It was, or people would just make their comments. Oh, he's not coming out. He's this or he's that, or and I'm like, just leave me alone. Like I can't. I don't function well in that. And there was a time in my life where I was super energized by people, and I loved being around people. But there was a time when there was, don't put me next to anybody. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to be in a crowd. I don't want to be out with anybody. Just leave me alone. And you're looked down on, and people make their comments. But you know what? Listen, people are going to make their comments anyway. And that's what I've learned the hard way. And I've learned that right now, right at this very moment, there's somebody talking about me right now that doesn't like me. And, I'm never going to be able to change that no matter what I do.
Yeah. I'm sure of it myself, but when it comes to like stuff like depression, if you've never experienced for yourself depression, and I mean really real depression, not just like, oh, I'm upset because, my girlfriend, or this girl, turned me down when I asked her out on a date. But if you've never experienced real depression, severe depression or anxiety, then you don't fully understand the grip that it has on you. We'll go with depression right now. When you're severely depressed, I mean, it just drains you of all energy. Yeah. I mean, you don't feel like getting out of bed. And you don't feel like going to a party. Yeah. Anxiety, if you're struggling with anxiety, maybe you're having a panic attack and you're having a hard time breathing. Or maybe you're just going through some things and your anxiety is through the roof. Of course, pray to Christ about it and ask for peace from Christ. But there are times when, you just want to be alone. Maybe in a quiet room with you and your Bible and God. And just peace. We all need some peace and quiet and alone time. Very important.
It's crazy. It's like you're having a heart attack and somebody's there saying, stop having that heart attack.
Yeah, a panic attack. Yeah. I had a couple, and they're really freaky. Yeah. I understand now. I never understood panic attacks in the past, and I thought they were kind of like, I don't want to say funny.
Wimpy.
I never I never understood them. Yeah. Because I'm just like, what do you mean a panic attack? Calm down.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll tell you what.
It's a real thing.
It's not only is it real, but they're inexplainable. Yeah. It just came on me. Yeah. I had no reason. It wasn't like something happened. It wasn't like anything. Like, it wasn't like someone pounded on the door and I'm like, oh no, who's here? I was actually at work when it happened. And I was just having a normal day at work, and all of a sudden I'm having a hard time breathing, and I just feel like my chest is heavy, and you almost get that feeling of panic, which is why they call it a panic attack. Yeah. Weird, really weird. So what I did was I walked away from my workstation for a little bit. It's a very long walk to the bathroom, so I just walked to the bathroom. Just tried to catch my breath. I had to actually think about my breathing. Yeah. Like breathe in.
The focus on
breathe out. Yeah. Breathe in through the nose, breathe out. Yeah, it's a focus thing. And it wound up calming down. But I've had a couple so far, and they are scary.
Yeah, they are scary. But that all to say, it's a real thing. Is everybody struggles with something real. Might not be real to somebody else. Yeah. But it's real to that person struggling. So, this with your issue, now maybe it gives a little bit more clarity on things that have happened in the past and the way you've handled and dealt with things now, which might have been a mystery to you before. Yeah, definitely. And now you're like, okay, that makes sense now. Yeah. How you do things. There may not be a time when you're totally comfortable with somebody else, like in your relationship.
Yeah, and I don't plan on it. I don't. I mean,
don't write it off.
No. But absolutely. I think it would be great if that happened. Yeah. But I think just knowing about it, and I'm going to say this to everybody listening. Always seek Jesus and always seek his help, because he's so willing to help and hold your hand in whatever you're going through in life. No matter what you've been through, we all can seek the peace of Jesus Christ and only the peace that he can offer.
Yeah, and Matthew 11:28, come to me all who labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great scriptures, I will give you rest. And you hear about Psalms and the shelter of the Most High. And that peace and that rest and that time of recovery is so important. And you have to get the author of the peace, and you have to seek the author of the calmness and the healing, and thank God we have that.
Yeah,
right?
and you bring up a good point, Dr. Mike, because I heard this years ago. I think it was from a pastor. So one of the misconceptions about and myths about people overcoming sexual abuse is the myth is that they get over it by seeking other relationships, by seeking romantic relationships. Yeah. That's actually a myth. The best healing will come from separating yourself from that, seeking God. Only God can bring the healing and make you whole again and make you able to enjoy a relationship with someone else again. But you can't expect another person to make you whole again. That it's not going to happen. The only one that can make you whole again is God. So the best thing you could do in the healing process is to obviously surround yourself with family and friends, but to make sure you spend time alone with the Lord, because He will bring the true healing.
Yeah, I mean that's so important. And as we continue to go down this, thank you for sharing that. And that might have been difficult.
It was at first. I was actually scared at first before the show started, but then honestly, I felt better about it as the show went on.
Yeah.
And the reason why I shared all of this is because I know we were talking about it earlier, the statistics that one out of 4 or 1 out of 3 people are sexually assaulted in the world. So that's a huge population. So I know that someone out there could get something from this, and I just want you to be encouraged. And I also want you to reach out to me if you want to talk about it. You can find me in the Facebook group, Jonathan Rindos, at the Facebook group In My Father's House. So there'll be a link in the description for that, so please check that out.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also, if you need a Bible, make sure you reach out.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to have Bibles on the way very shortly, so if you need a Bible, definitely reach out to us.
Yeah, that's definitely important. And as this topic is very difficult to handle and very sensitive, anybody out there that's struggling or needs to talk, I encourage you to reach out to JB and or to me for that matter. And don't be alone in this.
Yeah.
Reach out. Yeah,
if you feel like you have no one to talk to or no one to confide in, definitely reach out to us in the group. Your secret will be safe with me. Like, you can feel free to I know what it feels like to not know who to reach out to or not know who to talk about. Not know who to talk to about this. So yeah, definitely reach out to one of us in the group. We'll be happy to hear from you.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you, JB, again.
No problem.
And on our next episode, maybe we handle a couple different things.
All right.
Maybe not so sensitive, maybe more sensitive. You never know.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's the beauty of this. So for Pillars of Heaven, thank you, and we'll see you next time.